everyone, I'm Jamie Martin.
And I'm David Freeman.
And we're back with another episode of Lifetime Talks. This is a unique episode in that we don't actually have a live guest with us. David, what are your thoughts on this new approach we're taking for this one?
I love it. I mean, the thing is, we're going to be able to speak from an experience that we had still. And granted that the guest might not be on, I feel like when we actually hear from what the guest spoke on, the special guest spoke on, it'll make everybody feel like they're right there with us.
Exactly. So the experience that David is alluding to is back in April, he and I had a chance to go out to Monterey, California for what was called the Sea Otter Classic Summit. Lifetime owns and operates about 30 athletic events. The Sea Otter Classic is one of the biggest bike races and cycling races in the nation. And tied to that was this summit where it brought together outdoor industry leaders. And David and I both had this opportunity we were the MCs for this event. And as part of that, we got to kind of hear from all these outdoor industry leaders. We got to take in and gather all this information in a setting that was new for both of us. I mean, David, I was there last year without you. What was your first time experience of being at the Sea Otter Classic Summit like?
I love it. You know me, I always like to jump into certain things that might not be familiar with, just for the simple fact that I'm going to gain some type of knowledge from that experience, and to be able to hear from so many different speakers on how they're impacting the event space and the outdoor industry was amazing. There were so many different angles, from AI, from blind ambition, and to be able to hear from each individual and how they are creating change in the space was amazing.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. And with that, the summit actually kicked off. The keynote was with the founder and CEO of Lifetime, Bahram Akradi. And that's who you're going to be hearing from in this episode today. We were able to record that conversation that I had with him on the stage. And it was a really great conversation in that it was really about, why Healthy Way of Life is good for business, and not just for Lifetime as a business, but as companies for a whole. Like, why focusing on Healthy Way of Life values can make a big difference no matter what kind of industry you're in. And in this conversation, we got to talk with Bahram about kind of his approach to leadership, the evolution of Lifetime over the years, and a variety of other things. It was a really interesting conversation. And I know, David, you got to lead the Q&A portion at the end. We're going to get to hear bits and pieces of that in this episode too. What were some of your takeaways from that conversation with Bahram? I know you and I have both had multiple conversations with him over the years. We get to hear this stuff firsthand all the time. But what was your takeaway from that day?
I just love the innovation piece, right? Like we're going to continue to evolve. And you even said the word earlier, like just the evolution within the health and fitness industry. We continue to evolve, and we don't want to become stale at any point in time. As it relates to evolving within leadership, that goes back to another word that I said earlier, experience. And being that we've gone through so many different experiences, that's allowed us to be shaped into where I feel like just an industry leader in this space, and how we continue to lean into one another and understand the value of the different individuals around us, and celebrating that is, in my opinion, why we continue to lead in this space and not slow down.
Yeah. And so to get to hear from Bahram directly about that was pretty exciting. So I would say, without much further ado, I think we should jump right into the episode. You're going to hear this probably about hour-long conversation, maybe a little less, from our chairman, CEO, and founder of Lifetime, Bahram Akradi. So you're an entrepreneur, like you've been in that sense, for years, that's what you've done. You're also tirelessly innovating. You often say we have to innovate and then iterate constantly. Right. So how has your vision and execution evolved over the past 3 decades from where we started?
Yeah, so I had worked out since I was 14 years old. And by the time I was thinking Lifetime, it was 1988, I was 20, it was double the age. And I had seen the modality of exercise change. How we were exercising was changing every 4, 5, 10 years. But the health and well-being was more of a meta trend. And exercise itself, the type of exercise, was a little more fatty. So I wanted to design something that would easily adapt to what the changing modalities will be. So the big perspective is, when you think about a business, or you're thinking about 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or if you're thinking 20, 25 years, 30 years later. Well, the daunting task with 30 years later is that you really don't know. There's no way you really know, unless You're Einstein. You don't know what's going to come. So what you do need to do is design adaptability. If you think about your business with adaptability in mind, knowing that you have to adapt and change, and then build a wireframe in a way that you can make that adaptation.
Absolutely. Well, to that point, you've always been thinking broader than just fitness with the business. Nearly 15 years ago, you shifted Lifetime's focus toward becoming a broader lifestyle brand that encompasses healthy way of life, which has influenced our theme for today. And you wrote this in one of your columns for the magazine. Healthy way of life is the lens for examining every aspect of our lives. It's a filter for honestly reflecting on whether our time, priorities, and choices are truly aligned with our values and passions. So obviously, this all goes well beyond wellness and nutrition. How did you arrive at this meta trend? And how has Lifetime's ecosystem expanded to become a truly comprehensive, healthy way of life resource for its members?
Yeah. I don't think you can be healthy by just being fit. I think it is a much broader perspective. Your soul needs to feel healthy. Your mind needs to be healthy. Your body needs to be healthy. In order to do that, we are a product. We're all exchanging molecules all the time, all of us, and we're all exchanging energy all the time. And the health of the community, the health of the environment, the health of your workplace, all of these are so interconnected. A lot of us are in athletic events, so when you go to an event, the energy, the euphoria of all the people who have similar kind of enthusiasm and energy is amazing. We all feel it. It's not replicated until you're inside that event. So that's always due to the exchange of energy, exchange of molecules, the fluidity of our universe, our environment. So healthy way of life is having that macro perspective on what's healthy. It's how I treat you, how you treat me, how we interact with each other, how we view our impact on other people. Is it a taker, a giver, or can we be really more fluid with the whole thing? And so I feel like it's absolutely 100% interconnected, and you can't avoid it. You can't just be healthy on one section of your life and not in the other.
Mm-hmm. Well, that goes back to a lot of the things that we cover. I mean, education has been a big thing that you've talked about over the years. Experience life is is part of the ecosystem as well, because we know that when we educate and empower people, they can make choices.
Right.
And that's really influenced all the different ways that Lifetime has expanded. It includes lifetime living, lifetime work. It includes athletic events, which you've already alluded to. When you think about that, we're in a room with a bunch of people who are experts in the outdoor industry. Why was that such an important kind of addition to the Lifetime portfolio, and how does it fit into the bigger picture?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, we get to the club or someplace and we're strictly after the fitness, but fitness with a purpose is almost greater. So when I train for doing level 100, I train way differently than if I were just training. So, and you all know this, so it's the impact of a goal and an event that I'm going to participate in. It just brings a much better purpose into my regimen, whether it's nutrition or exercise or anything. So once again, it's a whole ecosystem, right? And if you bring it all together, then it feels more natural, and that's what we did.
So let's fast forward to kind of now. We're 4 years post the start of the pandemic, and that changed a lot of things for Lifetime.
Right.
There were some really significant challenges that we faced during that. How did it ultimately change Lifetime for the better? And kind of where did you start, and what have we been doing?
Yeah. So, look, I have a perspective on our planet and what we do as people. And I hope that we can do better quantum leaps without crises. But if you look at the history of mankind, unfortunately, we wait till there are massive, threatening, life-threatening crises, and then we react. And we prevail. Human has always prevailed, and we prevail again. And so I don't think that crises are necessarily a bad thing. If you go into it the same way you attempt to do a 3-day long race, you know you're going to be in pain. When crises come, you're going to go through pain. But you should really embrace it and figure out what you can do with it. So just a little bit of information for all of you guys. If you look at our history through lifetime, through March of 2020, the revenue and the EBITDA of the company grew every single year since we started. And if you ask me what would be the worst possible scenario, would be that in 1 year, we just wouldn't grow as much as I or the street would expect the growth. The idea that we would go backwards was unfathomable, unimaginable. So when COVID came, we were shut down. We went from like 40 million of EBITDA 1 month to minus 40 million of EBITDA the next month. And revenue went from 100 and some million dollars to 0 the next month. So first, you hope that this is going to last a couple of weeks, no more. Then it goes months, then it goes forever. And at the end, the impact of COVID, swing of our EBITDA over 5 years, 2024. Well, 25 will catch up if there was a straight line, which is an amazing accomplishment for our team. But it's $2 billion swing of EBITDA. And that's a massive, massive hit. It was the worst thing, and it was the best thing ever. We had a need and an opportunity arriving at the same time. The need was we had to change because the old metrics would not work. And the opportunity was now we're shut down, and some of the changes you wouldn't be willing to make because you didn't want to let a division of your company just no longer be in existence. As an example, I was in this industry because I was a phenom, natural salesperson. And that led for me not to do engineering, but to do this field. So I trained all the salespeople. I trained all the sales manager. We had 700 sales team. And there's no way I would ever just eliminate 700 people. I could never do it. If my life came to an end, I couldn't do it. But at this moment in time, and I hate it, when we first started, selling was part of our culture. When we got the company to be like a Four Seasons Ritz-Carlton brand, I didn't want to have that health club, used car sales anymore. But I could never get my team go away. So now all of a sudden, when we reopened, and these people had gone and found other jobs, it was no reason to rebuild it. So that's just one example of all the changes that we could now do with a clean slate that we couldn't do on a normalized deal. So we made that change. I transformed the company from a heavy management structure to leadership concept. And we cut layers where we would take 7, 8 people to say yes to a decision. Now there's no more than 3 layers. Absolutely, and you know that, Kimo knows that. There's like three layers to make a decision is the ultimate. So we had the opportunity to rethink, reimagine, and adapt. Like any other species, any business, you need to adapt. Sometimes you need to adapt evolutionary, and sometimes you need to adapt revolutionary. But if you don't adapt, you will die.
Okay. Yeah, we've definitely seen that up close and personal, and to see the impact that it's had, not just on the teams that I work with, but broadly across the entire company. I mean, your whole move from you're a manager to a leader has really shifted the dynamics for people.
And yes. You know what? Today we are significantly more efficient in our margins than we were before COVID. We used to do an EBITDA margin of about 31.5. We're 5 percentage points higher than that today. And without these critical changes, we would have never gotten there.
Right.
And one other thing that you talk about all the time, and we were just talking about this yesterday, is alignment.
Right.
So you've also made some significant changes so that there's more connection, alignment, less of the silos across the organization.
Yeah. So this is something I've always been extremely big on, both as a business person, as a leader, and as an engineer. So the analogy that I've used many times, it's how a piece of metal that has no power becomes a magnet, and then has a ton of power, even though it's the same number of molecules and exactly same molecules. Because every molecule of iron has a polarity of north and south. But in a piece of iron alone, they are so randomly distributed that they cancel all of their own energy. Unfortunately, the 8 billion people who live on the planet are much like that piece of iron. We're not a magnet. If we were more aligned, we would accomplish so much more for everyone. That's my ultimate long-term vision, to be able to have a bigger impact on this particular message for our whole planet. But that's years to come. For right now, the point I'm making is, if you go to a company and you ask the employees, what's your job? And if 90%, 95% of the team members said, my job is to help people live happier and healthier. Now, my only particular task, how to do that, is this. I make sandwiches, or I clean the locker room, or I draw layouts of clubs. It doesn't matter, but we're all doing the same thing. We're all helping people live healthier and happier. That is a way to create alignment. And if you can create alignment in your organization, so the more people in your organization understanding what they're doing, why they're doing that, and why it's important, their piece is important to the whole cause. This is another thing. It's a Navy SEAL team, 13, 14, 15 Navy SEALs. They're always in communication with each other. They're always 100% aligned on the objective. And so you can see the units of any structure, people, machines, when they're fully aligned, the results are much more dynamic. And so I can go on and on, so I'm not going to bore you guys, but alignment is the biggest thing in any sort of leadership.
Absolutely. Well, another one of the values that you really talk about a lot is, values, if you want to describe it, that is desirability. You know, one of the things that we do at Lifetime, a lot of things are centered around creating exceptional experiences that create desirability.
Right.
We focus on the best places, programs, performers. Why has this been such an important differentiating factor in Lifetime success? This ability to, in fact, literally millions of people's lives, and help them make healthy, sustainable change.
Yeah. So this is, once again, focus on the business point of view or the customer point of view. Business point of view is profitability. Customer's point of view will be desirability. But if you truly build desirability, profitability will naturally follow. So if the customer loves to go to your event, loves to use your product, then you don't need to spend money in advertising. I'll give you guys a little data in here. My vision when I started Lifetime was to get to a point where we spent $0 in marketing and advertising. Zero. That means I would have to build a product, my team would have to deliver a product that was so good that the customer would come on their own. So Peloton spend 10% of their revenue or more, and they're almost gone because it's just all money wasted in advertising. Health club industry on average spends 5-6%. The company that we sold my first business to, and they went bankrupt, spent 10% of their money, Bally's, on advertisement. They didn't focus anything on desirability. Lifetime this year will spend less than 1.5% of our revenue in marketing and advertising and sales now, because we have more salespeople combined. And this would have been easily more than 10% of our revenue, years back. So next year we'll grow the revenue at least 10%, and marketing dollars will not increase by $1. All of our focus is on desirability. You build a desirable product, customer will naturally come to you. And it's sustainable because you're building a brand by creating something that people actually love. And that's sustainable. That will continue to pay dividends in the future. When you do promotional marketing, all the money you spend today, it has a quick impact, but then it's gone. And it doesn't do anything else until you're on the next promotion.
I literally wrote down marketing and brand, and you just covered that without me asking. I love how I know where we're going. All right, so Lifetime, we already mentioned, you're an entrepreneur. Lifetime has an entrepreneurial spirit as a part of our culture at Lifetime. It's always like, what's the next thing? We move fast. But your mantra is think big, start small, move fast.
Right.
How does this come to life in practice each day?
So a little story would be fun. So I left the company we had sold the business to with a vision to start Lifetime. I was 28. I had 600 people reporting to me, and most of them wanted to leave to come with me. So that made me think I had to go start 6 of these clubs a year. Actually, my first market that I was focused on was San Francisco Bay Area. So I was traveling. I was trying to get 6 of them started. So between May of 1989 and end of 91, where I was trying to do these 6 big clubs a year, nothing ever happened. It never happened. Like, it was too big. When I first left, I could have built one of those clubs all with my own money. I couldn't build 6 of them, so I was trying to raise money. I could never raise the money for one various reason or other. By end of 91, I had literally gone through all the cash I had trying to start a new business. And I had 0 to show for it. So one day I was thinking, oh my God, like, what the hell am I doing wrong? And I went and took over a tiny little club that I would have never wanted to be part of, that was bankrupt, vandalized. And I said, I got to start this, and I'm going to start like the first chain of clubs that we built, 1 club, 2 clubs, etc. Well, that was the reason Lifetime's on the map. I built a club that I didn't want. It was against 30,000. It was antithesis of what we're building today. It was not what I wanted, but it was a starting point. Start small. So, and then, but I moved fast. We got the first club, which is Egan Club, which is a prototype, and then everything else happened. So I came up with this think big. The vision was always the same, to build a mega healthy living, healthy aging company. That was never different from the starting point. But in order for it to happen, I just had to start. And so I sold everything I had. At this point, I had nothing left. I sold the ring off my hand. I sold my cars. I bought a $100 van to drive around, and I put everything into starting that little club. So God blessed, and here we are. But so I am very, very big on that. When you talk about entrepreneurial, I think an entrepreneur, a leader, entrepreneurs need vision. They need to see things ahead of other people see. Otherwise, you're really not an entrepreneur. The number one key thing to be an entrepreneur is to have a vision for what you see in the future. The built-in negative with that is the bigger entrepreneur you are, the bigger vision you have, the further out you can see, the more distorted is your depth of vision. What do I mean by that? If you see something is going to happen 10 years from now, and you're a real visionary, a real entrepreneur, you think it's this close. So you run out of time, you run out of money. Most often, 95% of the time, run out of time or money to get it. It wasn't a bad idea. You were just ahead of your time. And you didn't anticipate the distance. So that's the caution I give real entrepreneurs, is that the better you are, the bigger handicap you have in this section. So, and then in order to lead as an entrepreneur, you need vision, which you have. You need courage. You got to start. And so if you want to start, my recommendation is always just start small. Just get going. 1 foot in front of the other and go. And then faster you can move, soon enough you're going to get the big vision happen.
Yeah, and you talk about that iteration all the time.
Right.
You know, test things and go from there. In our quest to deliver uncompromising, exceptional experiences, how does Lifetime stay ahead of the trends in the health and wellness space?
Yeah. So I think, like we just talked about, business is iterations, and it takes courage. Biggest thing that I think you have seen we've done at Lifetime is admit we're wrong. You know, we do it every Tuesday. We talk about what we screwed up last week, and admit your F-ups and get after it. And if you don't change, and sometimes we become stubborn and we want to just not admit that that wasn't a good path, that was a good direction. An example I give to people is the way an autopilot works in an airplane. An autopilot doesn't actually fly the plane from place to place. It literally stops the plane from rolling right or rolling left. You give the autopilot 2 particular points, you go from here to here. This is a straight line, and all the autopilot does is a rapid correction of rolling of right or rolling left, or up or down, the pitch. So that is what you need to do. But the autopilot does it so many times per second that you sitting in the back of that. In fact, when you guys fly, when your pilots take off, within 300 feet off the ground, they hit the button, sit back, the autopilot is flying until 300 feet above the ground. Now, when I fly for 20 minutes up, 20 minutes down, because I love flying. They're just doing that. But the autopilot is just keeping the plane. But it's such a rapid correction of mistakes that you never see. But if you took that flight and you magnify it, 1 billion times, you see this plane is doing this the whole time. So in business, rapid correction of your mistakes is the way you stay ahead. Is you watch, you rapidly correct. You watch other people doing a great idea. Somebody else runs a better program, some piece of your business. When you see it, you need to admit that they're doing something better than you, and then see what you can do better than them. And you can get at least that far and be beyond and make rapid corrections.
Yeah. So with that, looking ahead and knowing, what are your hope or what is your vision for the next 5 years and beyond for Lifetime?
Yeah. So we are, as I mentioned, 25 is really the year that we will financially get exactly to where we would have gone straight forward if nothing had happened. So we have we'll completely have recovered, but with a much better engine. It'll be better from there on. And we have gotten to the point we need. Our stock is not trading at the right multiple right now, but it's also going to correct itself over the next 5, 6, 12 months. And that will allow us the ability to use our stock for M&A acquisitions. The ultimate, if we take money out of the equation for Lifetime, I like to see us having a massive impact on everything healthy way of life, from perspective to education to training to nutrition to sports worldwide, helping people come together to do the things that I think are crucial and our responsibility as human beings. We are destroying our planet, but unfortunately much more like a tooth decay. You just don't recognize it's decaying. You hear stuff about global warming or CO2 impact, and you sort of like, I can't do anything about that. We do this, the other guys will ruin it. There's truth to all of that. There's truth to it hurting our planet. There is truth to it causing irreversible consequences. There's truth to the fact that you can do whatever you want to do in the United States or Australia, or New Zealand, in China and India, Iran, and Brazil, and there's other third world countries. They're creating enough damage to undo that. So we still need to take action. And so my vision is, at times I thought at some point I retire to go and work on this philanthropic aspect. Better yet, I think as long as I have my wits, I think Lifetime has room to have a bigger global impact. Well, as you know extremely well, we started years ago with our foundation, healthy little people, fixing food in schools. And then this last year, we went to the back half of our vision, it was healthy people, healthy planet. And now we are committed to planting millions of trees or protecting millions of trees per year. Trees alone isn't going to fix everything, but this one step, if everybody on the planet worked on that, would be great. So unity, common focus on doing the right thing for the Mother Nature and the people and the other creature living on it. Building places that people can be healthier and happier. Building events that brings inspiration, aspiration, motivation for people like much of you guys are doing. Building products or equipments that makes people live healthier and happier. All of it is on the roadmap. So as we get back to COVID, financial impact, and everything else behind us, and we only are now living with the benefits of it, not the negative side of it, which again is this year, next year. I would love to find other entities that are wanting to become part of our system, if they're entrepreneurs or building businesses, and they have a vision. Because I'm not interested in trying to take other people's business and go run it. I would want to find other people who have businesses with a vision that if they brought that vision, clear roadmap. If I had that vision, if I had the Lifetime platform, I can have a bigger impact much faster. If that entrepreneur already knows how they could do that and has a roadmap, knows Lifetime, knows their business, then I would like to be the place that we will aggregate more uniformly packaged together product and services that serves a broader community across the world. All in, healthy and happy. Okay? Anything else?
There's one more question, and then
Yeah.
we're going to open it up for Q&A. So again, you can use that QR code if you have any questions for Bahram. But the theme of today really is healthy way of life. It's good for business. So, why is maintaining the customer point of view? We've talked about this a little bit already, and healthy way of life good for all businesses, not just Lifetime.
It's good for all relationships. It's good for any relationship. If you think about it, what would that mean in a relationship? Customer point of view is between you and your husband, is you would think about what your husband's point of view is first. If you did that for him, and he did that for you, right? Then everything's gonna work. It's when you think about yourself and he thinks about himself where you're gonna have more roses, right? So it's not complicated. It's the most natural way of staying focused. I would always have said, member point of view. When we first opened the first club, we created these little pins, and instead of most valuable player, MVP, they were MPV, member point of view. And we were trying to push that with all the employees all the time. That has remained the guiding light for Lifetime in all the decisions we make. And as with 40,000 people in the company working together, as long as we keep reminding one another that the member point of view is what makes us. If you have an event business, if you have a service business, You don't need focus group. Your customer is right in front of you. They're actually using your product, and you can watch. It's the most accurate pickup of if your product is serving them correctly or not, right? So you just need to stay focused. They'll tell you everything you need to know.
All right, we're going to open it up for questions, if there are any. I know David's back there. He's got the iPad.
Yes, we got a few questions that have come in. So the first one I have here, any plans on including partnering with the healthcare industry?
Yeah, no. We tried. The U.S. healthcare industry is probably the worst possible Frankenstein way of serving the needs. In order for us, I provide healthcare for her. So I'm involved, we build something, and then there's an administrator, they're involved. The government rules are involved. And when you have insurance companies, they're involved. And so everybody's playing a game, and it's such a massive, it's 18% of GDP of United States. It's so big, and it's so convoluted. I don't want to say corrupt, it is just convoluted. And every decision takes forever. And it's not a common sense approach. So the way that I think we can help is the way we're providing the opportunity for their clients. I mean, the Aurora, as an example, as you guys know, our Medicare program has been a huge success, and is helping them because these folks are costing them significantly. They're in our clubs because they're happy. I want to emphasize, happy for an older person is the number one. Happy or not happy is the number one root cause of healthy or not healthy. So if we can bring them in, we can put them in a social environment, have them do some activities, all of that is working, and we have over 100,000 unique people right now per month using that program. So indirectly, yes. Directly, no. We've tried it.
Awesome. Just for y'all to understand, the next 15 minutes all about Q&A, so y'all definitely get the question in. So we got another one coming from Jack. He says, how do you think about international expansion? And if so, which markets presents the best opportunities for Lifetime?
Yeah, so we have been approached numerous times over the last decade with people wanting to bring Lifetime concept to international, other than what I'm going to consider Canada international for us. It's just North America. So being from a different country, myself originally, every country has its own rules and regulations. And then once you get past like a 4 or 5 hour time change, it becomes a whole new infrastructure. Your team that is working from 7 in the morning till 8 or 9 for customer service, responding to crises, etc. Now you need a 24-hour team. So we have developed a brand. We have about 150 plus billion impressions a year right now, and growing all naturally without spending money on advertisement. We have the IP, we have the formula, but our initial thought is that we're going to grow internationally, much like Four Seasons or Ritz-Carlton, where we would find partners, financial partners from those countries who would want to have Lifetime brand, but they also are sophisticated business people in those countries, so they actually know the way of doing business in those countries, the rules, the regulations, the real estate, and that's the way. We're right at the cusp of moving in that direction now. Again, we would have been there a couple of years ago. We will be there a couple of years from now.
Solid. Next one says, it's great to talk to current customers for your focus groups, but surely non-customers are key for your growth goals.
Ask that question again.
It says, it's great to talk to current customers for your focus groups, but surely non-customers are key for your growth goals.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because we are today reaching a point where about 30 to 50% of our clubs in the next 2-3 months would have to get on some form of a wait list in order to deliver the level of quality that we want to deliver. I'm talking to different lead generals every single day about how to roll their clubs into that wait list, just because of that critical moment in time where the number of visits per day is reaching. So, and then we've had, while we have about 1.5 million members, with the members that they have, basically have dropped out or come back in, the total database is about 5 million people. It's truly members and non-members. So that sample is so big that it encompasses everyone, and it's very easy. I don't consider it would be any different learning from somebody who is not a customer. Now, you could always come back and people say, well, here's why I don't join your club, right? And the only advice I would have for anybody in business is you don't want to chase every customer. You just don't. You need to know your customer, you need to be focused on who your customer should be, and you need to go after only that type of customer. And the other side of that is that homogeneousness of that customer base, right, is super important. In our business, we're building a place, we're building the programs, we're building the performers, but at the same time, what makes a club is who else is the member. And so all of that is part of that whole ecosystem. And so I think we're getting that intelligence from the customer base we have.
Awesome. This next one, coming from Zach. There is a growing public health crisis with kids who aren't active and don't get time outside that they need to grow physically and mentally. How is Lifetime committing to create change in this space?
Yeah. So I think part of our foundation is also working on not just nutrition for the kids, activity, but the bigger perspective is we run massive summer camps. The Lifetime clubs have been built from 90 days old to 90 years old, and we really work hard to provide everything inside of that continuum. So the culture, we're all product of biology and ecology, and the more mothers and fathers with children that we can get into our clubs living this active lifestyle, the more those children will pick up the need to do that. Then there are other, advice that I'm sure she writes down in Experience Life. Limit your kids' time on, iPads and machines. Those are decisions people have to make on their own. Our job is to provide the knowledge through Experience Life, through the podcast, and provide the places so they can, and we're doing all we can with that.
Nice. Next question. What role, if any, does the latest round of weight loss drugs play in the living and healthy lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, oh my God, from don't eat any sugar, to don't eat any meat, to don't eat any fat, to eat all the fat you can possibly eat. I've seen every one of these things come and go, right? All these little bubbles will show up. So the weight loss drug, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't have an opinion on that, is now going to become one of the biggest money machines for the pharmaceuticals. So therefore, my prediction is it's here to stay. But the fundamental of human body isn't changing in this next 100 years or 200 years. When you restrict the food supply, You all know you lose muscle and you lose bone density. Yeah, you lose weight, but it's the last weight you want to lose. So somebody is 400 pounds, 350 pounds, they aren't going to go to the clubs, they haven't, they don't feel uncomfortable, they'll feel uncomfortable going in. Taking these drugs for them to get a kickstart on feeling more motivated to go do something is a phenomenal thing. So yes to that. For all the people chasing vanity in Miami and LA and New York, who ladies are 25 pounds overweight, but they just have this need to look fast, great, they get on this stuff. I've seen some extremely awful results in them. They look awful, their skins are shriveling, they lose weight, they don't have any butt left on them. So there's just a lot of negative. However, it's here to stay. The opportunity for anybody here is to incorporate that instead of fighting it. All these people need activity. They need to exercise, they need to be on your bikes, they need to be on your machines, they need to be doing physical activity to augment the weight loss drug. It has zero negative impact on our business. Our business is not a weight loss person. What we are building, a healthy way of life, athletic country club destination, is the place people want to be in, to socialize, to do things, to do group fitness programs, your type of classes, David, and you know why the customer is coming in. We haven't seen one singular bit of a negative impact in our traffic or utilization or our membership, as I mentioned, clubs on weight loss. We haven't seen any negative impact. On the positive side, I think a lot of the people who are spending $500,000 a month on these drugs, they obviously care about vanity and they have money. And if they want to complete the process, they actually need professional environment and professional personal trainers, nutritionists to help them, combat the negative side of those drugs. And so it's an absolute positive for lifetime. Still, from a big macro perspective, my recommendation to people is extreme caution and study. Study exactly how that drug is working. Is neutering your appetite, which basically means you don't eat properly. And then, so it can be helpful if it's done correctly.
Well done. Okay, next one. You say vision and alignment is key. When hiring and building your team, how do you ensure that the talent you and your team hires is, in air quotes here, right for the vision you have?
Yeah. So we have a problem with that question because we have been working for 20 years plus. I think it's more than 20 years. I was interviewing a gentleman for head of HR, and he was awkward, very, very awkward. But I learned something from him that I implemented immediately into our company. And he was from Hollywood. He looked like no other head of HR director. He came in and he looked like somebody just jumped out of Beverly Hills. And his pitch was, companies make a mistake hiring people. They need to cast just like Hollywood. I love that. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. So I called my team. I said, no more word hiring. You need to cast. You need to cast. You need to cast. And today, everybody already knows it. If I interview someone, I ask two questions. What are you the only of? What do you do better than anybody else around you? What is your superpower? It's all the same question. And then the other question is, what would you do for free? What are you passionate about? If you had all the money in the world, what would get you out of bed tomorrow? And if you can find the convergence of your passion and your superpower, work is never work again, and you will succeed. And so at Lifetime, my personal effort is always to cast, just like Hollywood. You look at European movies, much better plots, much better stories, but they have the same 6 actors trying to act everything. So they screw it up. If you look at Hollywood, they have no plot, ridiculous plots, but they have perfect casting. So then you go watch that, and you know that movie as entertainment. So casting is the key. And we focus, we teach, we communicate, and we reiterate. Cast, cast, cast. And then once you cast correctly, and you create the alignment we talked about, we're all in this the same way, find the right role for the person, then everything works.
Awesome. 3 minutes left, so I'm going to do 2 more questions. On this next one, Bea, if you can, just stand up so everybody can see your buckle. They want to be able to see, so they have a visual reference here. Your belt buckle is a symbol of a big athletic goal that you've accomplished.
So this is my favorite. There aren't a lot of them. This is a Leadman Epic 250 triathlon. So years back when I was trying to take down, I changed that goal. But at one point I wanted to take on Ironman. With chemo, we wanted to create Leadman Tri. I had a vision, though. I wanted you guys to be clear. I wanted to be equally hard, maybe harder. So instead of 212 kilometers, it was 250 kilometers. But I wanted to eliminate the impact of the marathon at the end. So we went a 5-kilometer swim, a little more than the Ironman. We went 245 miles or so run, and a 16-mile bike, and about a 16-mile run to make it less impactful, but yet as hard and dramatic. A lot of the triathletes at that time used to actually come do the Leadman Tri because they could do it, and 2 weeks later they could do an Ironman as a training because it wasn't beating them up so bad from a full marathon distance. So that was the goal. This was in Lake Mead. 5 kilometers. I remember I getting out of the water and I couldn't move. I was so frozen. It was 55 degrees. Even with the wetsuit it was cold. But that's the Leadman Tri buckle. So.
Awesome. And the last question, we'll give it back because we want to make sure all these questions can probably be answered, and we probably post it somewhere to make sure that none of these questions go unanswered. But the last question, what are the cultural values your organization shares with your customers, particularly around willingness and courage to fail?
I think it's exactly the same thing as I mentioned to you. I think if you want to lead in life, your personal life, anybody else, you need to have a vision, you need to have the courage, you absolutely need to have the communication skill to get other people to know that vision. And then you need to have thrust. You need to have a mindset, I'm going to get this thing done, and nothing will stop you until you get it done, right? And so that same mantra applies to the customer, applies to the team member. You just basically create the venue, you create the encouragement, and you sort of instill in people that when you start something, you finish.
Awesome.
Bahram, thank you for kicking us off at the Sea Otter Classic Summit. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I'd like to give that